going to get started here again really quickly. I obviously authored one of these bills. I think most of you know that by now. So Amanda Cook is going to take the chair because President Collins sponsored it, and Jared definitely has an opinion and a vote. So with that, I will step down. I think we're ready. So we'll get started again. Thank you.
I would like to entertain a motion to bring us back out of recess. Senator Woodson.
I move to bring us out of recess.
Second.
Great. All of those in favor, please say aye or raise your right hand. There we go. All those opposed, please, any abstaining? All right, motion passes. Senate is now in session. First up, we have Senate Bill number 15, Fan Behavior, brought forth by Senator Shulhonig. Senator Shulhonig, would you like to open?
Absolutely. Where to open with this one? Obviously, I'd like to remind everybody about the massive open forum that we have. Obviously, there's a lot of students interested in this. First of all, I guess I would actually like to mention the Daily Nebraskan. Obviously, I really appreciate all the coverage in there, both articles, and I definitely appreciate the perspective as it endorses my bill. I would like to say that both of the bills that are brought forward today have a similar intent. The similar intent is to create an action out of this event that was definitely a bad event. It was offensive to a lot of people, regardless of intent. But they both get at the heart of the issue. They both want to do the same thing, and that is to work with the Husker Athletics and Fan Behavior Committee in order to create long-standing, sustainable changes within Husker Athletics so that people are provided with reasonable expectations with what is expected of them at Husker Athletics events. So I think that in the future there is a way to support a side without condemning the other. And I know that our work within the executive committee has been very, very cordial. So I would like to hope that this discussion is the same as well. Moving to the background, I mean, if anyone has questions on exactly what happened, read the bill. On November 7th, several students, 4 students, the 3 of whom came and talked today, wore Native American headdresses. They wore war paint. I have a picture of it in Nebraska, it was front page. They also had a sign that said, "We want our land back." If anyone wants this, I'm definitely willing to pass it. What I think is unfortunate about this is that Unite had to approach us as ASUN, which I think is unfortunate. But out of it can come really good things. And again, I mentioned those sustainable changes that we're going to be working for. The main difference between the 2 bills that you're seeing today is really an educational opportunity. By mentioning specifics on the events, which is the main difference in the 2 bills, by talking about the educational opportunity, talking about the events specifically, it makes the bill not vague, first of all. In addition, it allows students, when we're communicating it to them, to know what we're coming from, what is acceptable, a concrete example on how we can move forward. Again, it is also not a condemnation. I think a lot of people are going to bring up the fact that this effectively condemns students no matter what the wording is. I'd like to very much disagree with that. There's wording in here that says ASUN maintains freedom of speech. However, this was offensive to students, regardless of intent. It also says that these students were not provided reasonable expectations. The blame does not lie with the students. I encourage, creative, enthusiastic support. These students were not aware of the cultural repercussions as they spoke earlier. So really, as I said in the bill, it's an indicator of a greater overall problem. The incident itself is not the problem. So moving forward, again, it isn't an issue of free speech though. What this has done is it's created a hateful, non-inclusive environment for Native American students. We have 162 Native American students here at the university, 8 of whom are represented on Unite. That's a small population at the university. But however small a population is, it needs even more focus from the ASUN student government. They've been underrepresented, undersupported, and that's a thing that needs to end with this bill. It needs to set a precedent for that. I learned from one of my mentors who was here earlier, Pat Tetra. She's the director of LGBTQA programs and services and student involvement. Creating an inclusive environment helps everybody. It's not just to appease a student group who came and talked to us. That's not at all what this does. Is it helps all students here at university feel safe, feel included, and not feel excluded by their other students who are going to use hateful speech, hateful signs, regardless of intent. That having been said, I would like to thank, unfortunately the students aren't here that I see anymore. I really thank them for coming to talk about the issue and issuing an apology. It's a little lamentful that it took so long, but at the same time that took a lot of courage, it took a lot of honor, and I think that was a good movement forward. And at the very least, that's a win already. What we can do is establish more of a win with this bill. I'd like to talk a little bit about consistency. A couple years ago, Husker Athletics in a basketball game, they had an incident where a fan came dressed up in drag, wore a shirt that said Gay Hawks, and they were not allowed to come in. They were asked to leave immediately. And what this is a lack of consistency. Administration has said that because Native American culture isn't as understood, isn't as represented, it's a different issue, and I definitely disagree. In the end, offensiveness is offensiveness, and cultural competency is cultural competency. I refuse to believe, no matter what intent was, and again, I don't like attributing any sort of intent to these individuals at all, because I'm not going to be their judge and jury. But it is hard to believe, having said that, that coming with the signs so aggressive, coming with the headdresses, there have been reports of people dancing around and wore like, mimicry of Native American dances. I have a hard time believing that that was supposed to be an homage to Native American students. But that's regardless of the point. Another comparison that a lot of people bring up. If someone came to a game, and we were playing a traditionally African American school, if someone showed up in blackface, they obviously would be asked to leave. And so what this bill is, the main purpose of this bill is to establish a consistency, establish long-term standards so that the Husker Athletics knows how to handle situations. They know how to address people coming in. The people are trained. If they don't know who to talk to, they can approach someone else, call somebody, so that they know how to have a conducive environment that's safe for everybody. Again, going back to ASUN and our outlook right now, we passed a diversity plan. It's been talked about already. It talks specifically in there about creating an inclusive environment. It talks about supporting minority students. It's a thing that DSDC worked on for like a year and a half almost. And to not act on it is really deplorable by ASUN. So this is the first really concrete, really visible way for ASUN to back the diversity plan that you all passed. Again, going off what somebody said earlier, let's challenge intolerance. That's what the diversity plan also says. Let's challenge intolerance. Let's challenge that lack of cultural competency by trying to educate people. Again, the main difference is that educational component. So let's focus on that educational component. And then, again, the specifics. Look at the specifics of what each bill calls for. And you'll find that the one that we're talking about right now is much more specific as to how we're going to go about those things. Again, like I've already said, with people coming here, with a dialogue being created, we've already won some. So let's continue to do that more. UNL, as an administration, hasn't really stepped up yet. Other universities have stepped up in similar issues. I think somebody brought up a university in California where students had a ghetto party and they dressed in blackface and had gold chains and stuff like that. And that wasn't even on school grounds, and the university came out vocally and publicly against that. I think the university should take steps to do similar actions, but right now it's up to ASUN to step up. It's our turn to show students that we care about them and be a representative body for all students.
At this time, do any senators have questions? Senator Whitsett.
During open forum, the common theme that I heard of a lot of the forum speakers was action, 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 action. So Senator Schlonick, where in your bill do you see action?
Absolutely. You can look towards all the therefore be enacted clauses. They talk about collaborating with Husker Athletics. They talk about collaborating with the Family Behavior Committee. At the very end, the Diversity Strategic Development Committee technically does not need a directive to act. But based on how controversial this issue has been, having it specifically in there will keep DSDC committed to that goal and committed to what ASUN decides as a body. And beyond that, it's important to actively recognize the event. That's an action of itself. to show students that we support them. It's a rather passive action, but at the same time, it's action nonetheless, and it's important to students, and for that reason, it's important to, or it should be important to us.
Follow.
Yes, you still have a question.
Okay.